painting for a minute and kind of go through the exact process of how I strip a prior finish off of wood. The big reason I wanted to do this is because I've gone through some trials and tribulations of things with how I've tried to do it, and this process has seemed to work really, really well. It's very seamless. It's a lot of hands off. It's like let it do its thing and come back to it later, and which is awesome because you know like I do, you need to have something to do while the paint's drying. So it's the same kind of concept with this. I can slap this stuff on, walk away, do some painting, and come back, and basically the stuff has done its job all by itself. So what I'm going to first do is just go through the stuff you're going to need. It'll be in the sheet as well, just like I do with my painting videos. So the first thing is you're going to prep it. So you're going to need tape. You're going to need some type of paper. I usually have a brown roll of paper, but I have some of this packing paper that I have left over laying around that I'm going to use. And we're going to basically make a skirt around. I'm going to go through each step. This is just kind of an overview right now. You're going to need sponge brush to basically paint the citrus strip on, and that's what I used, citrus strip. It says you can use it inside. I wouldn't recommend it on big jobs. I'm actually going to do this little table inside though, just because the fumes aren't too bad, but if it was a lot that I had to spread over a large area, I probably would do it in the garage. That's usually where I do it anytime I do a bigger piece. You're going to need some cling wrap, which we'll get to that. Very important part of this. Of course, safety first. Anytime you're messing with chemicals, especially something that's going to strip an old finish off, definitely use some gloves and safety goggles for sure, because as you're slapping it around, it can splatter up in your eye, and you don't want that to happen. This is not water-based paint. This is some nasty, going to pull off, entire finish kind of stuff. So just be careful with it if you would. And then scrapers. I use plastic to start. No bueno, don't use plastic. Use the metal ones. The caveat to that is they dig into the wood because the wood's going to be soft. So get metal ones, but when we get to that step, I'll walk you through that, but you just need to be careful because you could dig and basically scar up your wood real bad. Then you're going to need TSP, and this is going to be help clean it after you pull the citrus strip off. And what I usually have is I just have a random glass bowl that I use for about everything, glazes and whatever kind of nonsense. I mix together TSP. It's usually about 50-50 TSP and hot water, and then my steel wool is what I use to kind of scrape off whatever might be left. So that's kind of stuff that you'll need. I don't think I missed anything, but if I did, I'll let you know when we go through the steps. So our first step is going to be prepping. So we're going to go to that next. And again, just going to need regular blue tape like you're going to use to prep a piece for painting. And then any kind of paper you have that's going to be big enough to cover the space that you're not going to want the citrus strip to drop down onto. Okay, so our first step is basically you're going to create a barrier between what you're going to put the citrus strip on and everything else. Because what will happen is if any of it drips down to your bottom area, even one little drop, it's going to strip your paint or whatever surface you have off. So as an example, I just did a vanity and I didn't have the tape secured well enough underneath, and some creeped down in and just completely took the finish right off, and I didn't know it until I took the whole skirt off. So be very careful with this step. I probably could have done a better job, but in my defense, it had some curved edges, and that was kind of why it was a little bit of a pain. So, big thing, first step, before you put the skirt on, is start with an initial tape layer. And what I mean by that is you're going to go all the way around. I'm going to come around this side, make it easier. You're going to come all the way around your edge with one layer of tape first. And the reason why you're going to do that is because when I do the skirt next, I'm going to tape the skirt to your first layer of tape. So how I do this first step is it's going to go under the lip, but not all the way to the edge, like halfway between the edge and then the corner, halfway between is how I do it. And that's just because if you're looking from the top, if you go all the way to the corner or the edge, sometimes you might be able to see where the paint starts and the new stained edge starts. You don't want to see it. You want it to be kind of a seamless thing. So you're going to want the stain to go around the edge, but not all the way down to the corner. So, but if you go about halfway, usually you're going to be good with, not being able to see it one, and not having to worry about, like, if you do end up staining first and then painting second, if you paint a little bit over the stain, no big deal, right? So ultimately, I'm going to get right down underneath here, and we'll go about halfway. This is where you have to be a little bit meticulous about it. So I'm going to have to rip the paint or the tape and get it just so. Okay. And of course, as anything else, prepping is key. So take your time to do it right. And right up underneath here is a lot of guck from whoever stained this the last time. Looked like it's an antique, so it's been stained a few times. So that's another reason why you want to get down and around the edge, because a lot of it, the drippings, if they didn't do it correctly, you're going to want to get. But where I have tape is flat, just beyond the tape, before the edge, has got some drips of stain on there. So you're going to do this all the way around. Okay, so I'm not going to go all the way around right this second, but you kind of get the idea. And then you're going to take your paper, okay, and for this, let's see if it's going to reach all the way down. So it's not going to quite reach all the way down. So what you want to do, you want to make sure it's all covered, because if not one drip gets down there, you're going to be in trouble. Okay, so you make sure it goes a long way. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little piece of tape. So I'm going to have half the tape on the paper, half the tape off the paper. And depending on what kind of paper you have, the blue tape sticks to it really well. So then I'm going to take my tape from the paper. Oops, wait. My tape from the paper to the initial layer of tape. And what that's going to allow for is just one, it's easier to put it down there, because I'm not having to be so precise and exact about where it goes, because I already have that layer of tape that's the line that I need to be exact. And the tape sticks to the blue tape really well, rather than doing the one layer, which I've done before. I've done the one layer, trying to be all precise about it with the paper, and then that one layer pulls back, and then some of the citrus strip gets down in there. Now you have two layers of, basically a barrier. So you have your initial tape, and then your secondary, and then your paper. So this is what you're going to do. And then you just do this all the way around. And this is your first step to prep it. Make sure you don't get any of the citrus strip anywhere you don't want to. And trust me when I say do this step. I've done this before, thinking I'm going to be all neat and I'll do it nice and slow and I won't spill any. Sure enough, it's going to spill. If not when you're putting it on initially, but when you're scraping it off after is probably the most important reason why you're doing what you're doing right now. Because when I go to scrape it off after, I don't have to worry about getting anything anywhere. Just scrape it right off, and actually I could use this paper as a helper to scrape it off into the paper and then throw the paper right away. So a couple of reasons why you want to prep it, but a really great first step. So that's going to be it for now, and then the next step is really going to be simple. We're going to slap that stuff on there, and then I'll go through the little trick that I use to help it work even that much better. Okay, so as you see, now we have a skirt, right? And went all the way down, all the way around. I even secured it down below with some tape so it's not just hanging. Because if you're outside and the wind blows and blows it up and stuff falls on it, so you just secure it on there real good. And you took the time to tape it all the way on there, just make sure it stays on there. I guess is the key to this. Okay, so safety. First, I got one glove. I'm going to need another one to touch the camera and stuff like that. And then my goggles, okay? So, the biggest thing with this stuff is don't go skimpy. Don't do a teeny tiny little thin layer, because you're going to end up having to do it twice. If you want to do it once, get one really thick layer. You can buy more of this at the store, I promise. This is about let's say, I don't know, right down to this part right here. And what was up above it is what I used on one vanity. But they're not that expensive, and trust me, it's such a time saver. It's so worth the money spent to just get the stuff and utilize it fully by slapping it on there, a real good thick layer. Now I'm gonna try to do this without gloves on. I'm not getting it all over myself. I don't know if you saw that, but it just splattered as I took the top off, and would have gotten probably in my eyes. See, it's splattering a little bit. So definitely safety goggles, gloves if you got them, and get some on me and around my clothes, but I'll live. Okay, so, and literally, I'm not even joking, get as much of this stuff as you can get globbed on there in one pretty thick layer. So I'm going to try to get what I have left in this bottle out of here, best I can anyway. Okay, we're going to go over that for right now and see what I get. Okay, so then you're just going to slap it on here, and almost immediately you'll see this stuff doing its job, just because it works that good. So you want to hurry, well not hurry, but I mean you want to take your time, because you want to get it on there before it starts really doing damage all over the place. And depending on what kind of sponge brushes you get, it might eat the sponge brush up a little bit, but not in the time it takes you to do it. You're just going to end up throwing it away anyway. So, like this one looks like it's starting to eat it up good. But I'm going to have time enough to get it on here, so just a really nice thick layer. Okay? And you're going to want to get all around the edges. This one happens to have some grooves, which is a good thing because it'll sit in the grooves better than it will just like on a flat edge. You really have to play with it to get it to sit on the flat edges. It's kind of sticky, gooey kind of stuff, so it does stay on the flat edges on the sides fairly well. But if you have like some detailing or stuff like that, it sits in it quite a bit better. Okay. Hopefully y'all can see that. I'm going to try to tip it just before I'm done to show you what I see from over top. But just be intentional about it. Get it everywhere there's stain. Make sure there's no dry spots. Because that one dry spot is the one spot you're going to have to sand to get the finish off. And I don't like wasting time sanding. Sanding is fun sometimes, but if it's simply just because I didn't do something correctly, I get a little annoyed with that. So if I just take my time and make sure I get it on there real good, I shouldn't have to do much sanding other than just to smooth it out possibly after I clean it up. Okay. That's basically it. And I don't know how well you can see, but this sponge brush is tore up. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. But look at this thing. Poor thing. It's done. Done for. Try to get as much of it out of there. Okay, so that little bit I had worked. Okay, so the trick to Citrus Strip is keeping it moist. As soon as it dries, it stops working. So with that being said, trick, take you some saran wrap and gently, when I say gently, I mean just lay it on there. Just like that. Lay it across it. Okay. Nothing to see here, people. Alright. Gently lay it on there like that, without trying to drop the roll all over the place. And the reason why you don't want to like pull it tight is because the edges where it's pulled tight, it'll pull the Citrus Strip down to the bare wood, and which is not what you want. Okay, see if I can do this without dropping it this time. Okay. So we're going to lay it on there like that, right? what's going to happen is it's going to stay moist because it's not getting the air to it. And I promise you, this is a deal breaker with Citrus Strip. I've done it without when I first tried to do this, and it dries so quick. And then you got to do it again. I ended up doing it 3 times, I think. And when I implemented this little trick, I've only ever had to do the Citrus Strip just 1 time. So, I mean, talk about a time saver, big time. Okay. Then if you want to, you could do one saran wrap thing around to hold it on, like if you're outside and the wind's blowing. I've had that happen before where the wind blew a whole side up and I wasn't out there, didn't see it. So then I go to saran wrapping around the edge. I think I'm just gonna let this sit in here, so I'm not gonna have to worry about that. So that's it. That's how you apply it. That's the trick to keep it good and moist, to keep it working. And then the next trick for me, wait a whole day. As painful it is for me, because I'm very impatient, wait a whole day. Because if it stays moist that whole day, you will literally take your scraper and it'll, like butter, just come right off. No matter how many layers, and I've seen layers that have come off, it scrapes off just like butter. And then you're right down to the wood already. All you gotta do is clean it, maybe give it a nice little buff, and then you're ready to go. So, you have to wait a whole day to get to the next step. But just keep an eye on it. You know, like I said, the big thing is that it stays moist. If it looks like it's starting to dry up, then either you didn't put enough of the Citrus Strip and you're going to need to add some, or you don't have the saran wrap wrapped around the edges good enough. But usually, as long as you have that saran wrap on there, it'll stay moist for just about a day, depending on how much. Like I said, you need a good thick layer of it to ensure that that happens. So that's it for now. The next step, we'll peel it off. I'll show you how easily it comes right off. And then we'll get on to the next step. Okay, so one thing I wanted to show was the actual top. Looking at the video back, you kind of see me working on it, but you can't see it real well. So I'm going to tip this over, this last little part, and just kind of show you. See, it's a good thick, that pink orange layer over top that you can see all throughout. And that's what you're kind of going for, that thick, very thick, you know, I don't know, trying to think of a good description to use, but it's a good layer, almost where you can't see the wood. There's a couple spots where I might have got a little thin with it just because I ran out of my Citrus Strip, but for the most part, that's what you're looking for. Almost an entire layer of that orange over top of your wood finish. And then put your saran wrap on. So, but I wanted just to show you exactly what it looks like. Now that I went back and watched the video, I could tell that you couldn't quite see exactly what I was doing from the top side. So anyways, that's it for now. Okay, so we're 24 hours later. I actually took this outside because here in Florida it's good and humid out there, and for the most part it stayed wet. I mean, it's moist underneath, it's not dry like when the Citrus Strip dries, it gets like a really light orange color and gets crackly. But as you can probably see, it's still fairly moist. I could have done a thicker coat, probably should have done a thicker coat, but I just used what was left in the bottle. But you're gonna see just how well this stuff actually works. So all we're gonna do is peel this off. And I've done this at a downward angle and it has dried a little bit actually, now that I'm peeling it off and looking at it. What a hot mess this thing was. This poor table, somebody really messed up bad. So anyways, so that's what it's gonna look like, right? I'm gonna take my scraper, and again, I'm using a metal scraper just because it's easier to use than plastic, because the plastic just doesn't quite get it the way you'd like it to. And I found that the plastic one, it sticks to the plastic pretty good. So you're just gonna take your scraper and scrape right across. Hopefully this is coming through in the video. Look at how awesome that is. right down to the wood. And I didn't even really press that hard. I mean, I pressed hard enough, but not too hard. Put the excess down there. Now, normally when I do it, it's a little bit more gooey and wet because I have a really good thick layer normally when I do it. But right now, it's not. So it's a little easier for me to scrape and grab and then just offload it somewhere, which is not normally the case. Normally this is quite a bit messier, but that thin layer seemed to have worked just fine. And it stayed wet enough, looks like to me. But that's all there is to it. I mean, that took like no work at all. I mean, basically I smeared the stuff on. I mean, the prep work probably took more than anything, taping it up and making sure I didn't screw up the rest of my piece, you know. But that's it. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna scrape this whole thing off. I'm not gonna do a whole video of me scraping because that's not probably the most fun thing in the world to watch. But after that, we're gonna go into the cleaning step. And it's basically just a step to ensure you get all the goo off of it before you start to paint, and to see if there's any spots that the goo didn't get your finish off of. But man, yeah, this is gonna be cool. Even I didn't know this table was gonna look this nice underneath. It was really bad though. This is probably like somebody kind of half-heartedly stained over top of stain is what it looked like happened on this thing. Look how beautiful that is. This is gonna be awesome. So I'm gonna re-stain this top and paint the bottom, I think is what's gonna happen with this. But anyways, that's the next step. And you can see the metal one was good. I didn't dig into the corners. It was nice flat, fluid motion just to scrape it off nice and gentle without digging into the wood too much. And again, you're gonna use a cleaning step after this, which will get all the little remnants of goo that's left. So that's it for now. Okay, so I got it all scraped off best I could. This had some kind of unique corners around the sides and an indent and this whole thing. So you do the best you can with a scraper. So your next step is to clean it. And what I have is my hot water TSP solution. I don't know. I don't normally measure it, but I'd say probably 75% hot water, and try to use hot water because it helps. And the rest is the TSP, so 75, 25, something like that. Use gloves, I mean, TSP's a chemical, so definitely, I mean, I'm sure it's not going to kill you, but I usually use gloves. And then I use just some steel grade, steel wool or whatever you want to call it. No real particular grade or whatever. What I have laying around is what I have laying around, and that's what I use. So you get it's just pretty good and wet, and you're just gonna basically almost sand the wood, sand wash it, I guess, however you want to call it. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna peel back all the crud that's still on there that you couldn't scrape off. And it's going to clean the wood up real good for you. And you can already see it's starting to pretty up quite a bit from what it was a second ago. And again, you know, it's kind of like sanding it a little bit, like a wet sand. And this stupid thing's got this crack all the way around the edges, which is going to be a pain a little bit, rather than it being a flat edge. But anyways, that's it. So your next step after scraping is just a good cleaning. And then of course you're going to want to let it dry thoroughly before you sand it. But that ultimately will be our next step, is we're going to give it a good sanding. And then depending on what you're going to do with it. So, you know, if you're going to sand it to stain, you know, make sure you sand it correctly. But that's all there is to it. I mean, that's how I strip prior finishes. Citrus Strip works really great. I'll do one last little video just to show you what it looked like dry. That's it. That's all there is to it, folks. Look at how pretty that is. And this little antique table, I mean, this thing's probably 100 years old. Been through some life, is going to now live a new one. So one of the things I like about what I do. So hopefully this is helpful. Kind of give you an idea of a really super easy way to clean up those tops to things to really give them a professional look, finished look. So you don't always have to paint right over top of whatever finish is there. If it's pretty beat up like this one was and you need to clean it up, this is the way to do it. So that's it for now. Again, I'll do another video as soon as this thing dries, just to give you an idea what it looks like. Alright, so it's all done, all dry after we did the cleaning step, and I just wanted to show you guys exactly what you end up getting after stripping and cleaning. And you can see, I mean, almost completely down to the wood. So this process, as I've shown, is very, very easy and gets you almost to the point where you can stain right away. Now, you definitely want to sand just to prep it completely, because you can see there are a couple little dark spots. A little light sanding will definitely clean all that up, usually depending on what kind of wood it is. And then, you know, just do what you want to do with it, I guess. For this, I'm going to stain it, so I'm going to do some sanding. But I just wanted to show you what it looked like dry, because wet, you couldn't really tell just how well that stripping did. I mean, it got right down to the grain almost all the way in all areas just by following those steps I told you. Again, I'm going to go ahead and give it a nice little sanding just to get it all even across, so when I put the stain on, that it's an even coat of stain. But looked pretty good, came out pretty good. Hope you enjoyed this video. Looking to do some more instructional stuff that doesn't have anything to do with painting. So if there's anything you guys can think of, be sure just to let me know, either through my Facebook page or through FPU, and get some more stuff up. Just again, the main reason why I'm doing this is to kind of show some of the processes that I've learned through trial and error, and found a good process to help, you know, give people who are maybe starting out, or maybe who have a process that don't realize there's an easier one out there, without having to go through those, you know, trials and tribulations that I went through. So, but that's it for today.